let's talk Michael Jackson and let's talk nuance, right? So Michael Jackson is a Black American man, and he goes into detail. This is the site that I found his like documentary, where he also dives into like his friendships and his roots. And I'm gonna watch it later. I watched it when it first came out. I said that because people like Fabio and some of the other fake Michael Jackson impersonators and this random influencer are now saying, oh no, he's Asian, no, he's mixed, no, he's Puerto Rican, no, he is Black American. He says it on Oprah. He literally has said it multiple times. With that being said, within even my community, they also spread that rhetoric of, oh, this man doesn't want to be Black. He had Black women in all his videos. If they weren't Black, they were Black adjacent and ambiguous or whatever. Except for Blood on the Dance Floor, he had a person of color. He had this Spanish lady popping her puss. And in other spaces, they were mixed, like a mixed crowd of women, such as in Smooth Criminal. Something also that I noticed that a lot of people didn't notice, that in that documentary I showed you guys that y'all should watch, he talks about like, oh, I have vitiligo now, so I can't even really like go out and into the sun. Like sometimes he did, right? I saw it on other home videos online. However, not very often, because it would harm his skin. And again, we're talking from a space of not 2026 lens, but a back in the 2000s lens. And we're still learning about vitiligo till this day. But in this documentary, he talks about how he's like, oh, I just sometimes like I miss my skin color being that color. And I often think about how that also added to his insecurity, you know? So for people to be like, oh, he just didn't want to be Black and da da da. And something else that I noticed is that they use his kids as the oh, he married Lisa. Yeah, he did marry Lisa. That marriage was crazy, y'all. One day I will go into it, and then Debbie was the surrogate, right? But even between Lisa said, hey, nah, every damn time Diana was on his mind. She was able to reach him consistently. And that does put a little dent into a relationship, as well as her still having feelings for her baby daddy. So that shit was just messy. But yeah, when Debbie comes around, they always like, when it comes to the kids, oh, he wanted a white baby mama. I'm like, y'all, he did ask other women, but they were like, I'm not just gonna make kids with you, and I still want custody of my kids. I want it the old-fashioned way. Also, I feel like people, again, looking at the lens of 2026 versus the 90s and the 2000s, surrogacy was not popular. Adoption to this day still is not popular, and it still has its stigmas and all the things around it, which is understandable because sometimes it is kidnapping, you know what I mean? But for surrogacy, there wasn't a lot of Black and people of color, and to this day there's not a lot of Black men at the sperm bank. But like, even back in the day, a lot of Black women didn't do the surrogacy thing. And even the Black women he wanted to attach himself with, they were all trying to get a bag too. So Michael's trying to settle down. All the people that he really liked and he probably would date further, no shade or tea, because he was engaged before Lisa to a Black woman, it just didn't work. Lisa didn't want to have his kids either because she was on birth control. That was crazy. Again, I will dive into that later. I gotta put my thoughts together. But then Debbie was like, I'll do it. And then she kept on saying like, oh, I have it. But I also think Debbie like fell in love with him too. But that's normal, because people who have a baby, they're gonna fall in love with you. Like it'll be foolish for her not to think she would fall in love. But it still wasn't that. It was a contract. It wasn't love. It was a marriage. It was a contract for her to have children. Like cattle, no shade, but it's the truth. And then she had complications with Paris. And then he had the other surrogate lady that was Blanca's mama, who he says that is Black, but I think she was just ambiguous Black, like Randy baby mama. And unfortunately, some of you continue the propaganda to make yourself feel good and fulfill your own fantasies. It's quite strange. Also, Taj, his nephew, said that when he took them on for that short amount of time, because Tito had a little bit of breakdown after Dee Dee had passed away, unfortunately, may she rest well. Like, in his literature, there was a lot of Black books. And one of his favorite books is actually the biography of Malcolm X. Okay? And on top of that, and no shade on tea, it's so cute, there is a picture where it's Little Hamburger, a.k.a. Prince, and Paris. And I think Biggie's in it too, a.k.a. Blanket. and they have dashikis on. Mind you, Grace's been around them forever and a day. And I didn't know that Grace was a great friend since 1992 all the way up to his children, right? He trusted her with his children because before that she was just doing like small things like personal assistant things, and she grew into his circle and was with him even though he fired her like 20 times, but that don't fucking matter. She even came to help take care of the children after he passed away. And I feel like also a lot of people do not mention the fact that I think that his children would have been Paris, when she said, I'm a black woman, I truly believe that Paris very much felt that, even though like phenotype wise, she does not look like a black woman in her heart and her head. And I think the rest of their heads, like Prince specifically and Paris, they was raised like that, right? Biggie, he may not remember, but you know, he also looks very ambiguous as well. But like Paris specifically, she was like, oh, I'm a strong black woman. I was just like, well, that's probably how their father really raised them. You know what I'm saying? I think even if he got older, he would raise them in blackness, because that's what he was doing with his nephews when he took custody of them. I wanted to add that too. Also, throughout the 90s and the 2000s, even up to like when he was going overseas, the Nation of Islam was protecting Michael Jackson, right? Giving him extra security until he came back. Kinda in 2005-ish. He was just like, the media is making it a big thing, and he didn't want them to get caught up in everything and anything, because if you know anything about Minister Farrakhan, you know, he was outside with Malcolm and them, so you know, he didn't want, I guess, anyone to get harmed. He was you know, minister, and he was getting up there in age, and also the people that follow him is in his practice. But yeah, they're still very well connected to Janet is well connected because she was at Minister Farrakhan's wife's funeral, Khadijah, may she rest well. So Prince, and I think Prince and Paris and Biggie, they all was around the Nation of Islam until they kind of came back. They, like, you know, as well as them being in the Middle East, and then they were in Ireland for not a long time, and then they came back to America.